Now, today I want to share a part of my story that I've not always known how to talk about. Now, it's not because I'm ashamed, not because I'm trying to hide it, but because some parts of your story require wisdom before you speak about them publicly. So, when children are connected to a story, also, you have to be even more careful. You have to tell the truth without placing the pain on someone who was never responsible for the choices that adults made. So let me say this clearly from the beginning. My marriage was a mistake, clearly, but my daughter, born of that marriage, was not. She was never a mistake. I want to make that very, very clear. She is not responsible for the decision that I made. She's not my symbol of pain or a symbol of pain, of my pain. She is a person. She's a blessing, and she's a life that God entrusted to me. So now that distinction matters, because although the marriage was a decision, my daughter is an actual person. So a decision can be unwise without a child being unwanted, regretted, or a part of that mistake. So now I want that to be understood before anything else is said, because sometimes life is complicated like that. Sometimes a season can be painful and still can produce something precious. Sometimes a decision can be wrong and still God can bring something beautiful through it. And that is exactly what my daughter was. That is also a part of becoming. Now, I married someone the day he came home from prison. Now, I know that there are people that may hear that and they immediately think, how could you do that? Or, girl, you should have known better. But, healing has taught me that judgment is easy when you're standing on the outside looking at someone else's story. But, this story isn't as simple as it sounds, because this wasn't a stranger that I met one day and decided to build a life with overnight. This was actually someone that I had known from my past. We knew each other from high school, but we didn't build a relationship from high school on. We dated a little bit then, and then, life moved on. Years passed, and then our paths end up crossing again, and actually through church, believe it or not. Now, this matters because this didn't begin as me simply choosing someone because of where he was, okay? It began with familiarity. It began with history. It began in a faith environment initially, and then when the communication, continued after his incarceration, I went into this thing and understood it as ministry. That's really what it was for me, and encouragement. That is the honest truth, guys. So listen, I wasn't pursuing marriage at the beginning of this thing. I was not looking at it through that lens that people might judge it through now. But you know how it goes over time, old familiarity, emotional vulnerability, ministry language, and my own unhealed places, they begin to mix. And that's where discernment became necessary. Now, at the time, I was coming out of a very abusive relationship. I, had been coming through, being healed from that. Those years had torn down the way I saw myself. Now, when you've heard over and over and over again that you're nothing, you're not going to be anything, that nobody's going to want you, that you're not valuable, nobody loves you, you try to make someone love you, that wears on your spirit. And when you've lived through physical abuse, emotional abuse, and years of survival, sometimes you don't come out of that season whole. You come out alive. Thank God for that. And alive is a blessing. But alive does not always mean healed. So that's why I say heal, sis. Because if you do not take the time to heal, pain will start making you make decisions, or pain will start making decisions for you. Loneliness will start making decisions for you. Rejection will start making decisions for you. Low self-worth will start making decisions for you. And sometimes, without realizing it, you can leave one painful relationship and walk straight into another situation because your heart is still trying to recover from what it survived. So now that is where I was. I wasn't trying to be reckless. I was not trying to ignore God. I was not trying to hurt myself. I honestly believed that I was doing something good. And I believed in second chances. I still believe in second chances. Don't get me wrong now. But what I've learned is that believing in second chances doesn't mean you ignore timing, wisdom, patterns, or counsel. I had wise counsel. I talked to my pastors. I talked to people close to me. And the people who loved me warned me. Let me make that clear. They were not necessarily attacking him as a person. They were concerned about the situation. Rightly so. They were concerned about the timing. They were concerned about what I was walking into before I had fully healed from what I had just come through. And I heard them. I did. But I didn't fully receive it. Because when your judgment is clouded by pain, listen, please, you can hear wisdom and you can still choose what your wound wants. That's hard to admit, but it's true. And that's why I do not tell this story from a place of blame. I'm not here to attack anyone. I'm not here to make myself look like a victim. I am not here to make someone else the villain so I can feel better about my choices. Not at all. I'm a victor in this situation. But being a victor does not mean pretend every decision was wise, because it wasn't. Being a victor means I can tell the truth, take responsibility for my actions, and still say God brought me through. I learned very quickly that the marriage was not what I thought it would be. I learned that love cannot be built on hope alone. I learned that history does not equal destiny. Ooh, history does not equal destiny. You know what? I learned that ministry and marriage are not the same thing. I learned that compassion without discernment can put you in places God was trying to warn you about all along. Listen, and I also learned this. When you have not healed from abuse, you may confuse attention with love, familiarity with safety, and possibility with purpose. Now listen, that marriage brought pain. There was infidelity. There was another child born from that infidelity, very close to the time my own child was born. Now listen, that was painful. It was humiliating. That was heavy. That was the second time around. Now listen, I had to walk through that while still being a mother, while still trying to hold myself together, while still trying to understand how I got there, still being in the church. But here's the part I want another woman to hear. Listen, you can survive the consequences of a painful decision. You can heal after heartbreak. You can rebuild after embarrassment. You can recover after choosing wrong. You can tell the truth without living in shame. You can say, that was a mistake, and still refuse to call your life over, because it's not. You can say, listen, I have still waited. I should have waited, and still know that God did not abandon you. You can say, I ignored wisdom and still became wiser, because that is what becoming looks like. It's not pretending you never made a mistake. It is allowing God to make you whole enough that you stop repeating the cycle. Because too many of us leave one relationship wounded, and what do? We carry those same wounds right into the next one. We carry the suspicion, we carry the insecurity, we carry the anger, we carry the fear, we carry the need to prove that we are lovable. And then what happens? We wonder why the next relationship feels heavy too. Sometimes it's not because we're bad people. It's because we are unhealed people trying to build healthy relationships from broken places. And listen, this is why healing is not optional. Heal, sis. Now, in part 2, I'm going to talk about what discernment looked like after the pain, because the lesson was not just that I made a painful decision. The lesson was that I had to heal through enough and not keep repeating the same cycle.